ओम पूर्णमदः पूर्णमदं पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. So welcome to our Saturday afternoon session today. Used to be in the morning, but due to some unavoidable circumstances, we could not do it in the morning. But next week onwards, we will continue on our usual time at 10 a.m. in the morning. Now we'll continue on chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, which is called Vibhuti Yoga. Now, in the beginning of this chapter, we saw that Lord Krishna explained the inexplicable. He was telling Arjuna that I'm going to reveal you the secret of all secrets. And that is how he started the chapter, saying that my appearance in this world cannot be understood by anybody, including the Devtas and the rishis and the munis, because I am the cause of their existence as well, cause of the causes. So since he is the cause of all causes, only those who appeared later on cannot explain how it happened. And this is the theme which continued in the first 12 verses of this chapter. Then Arjun was not satisfied. He had certain doubts. Obviously, all of us have doubts because it is not easy to believe in a divine power. We raise a lot of questions. Our mind, our intellect does not believe in existence of divine power easily. There's a curiosity to probe further, and that is why Arjuna raised questions that why don't you tell me all the vibhutis, all the manifestations of yours in detail so that I can understand you better. Now, if you recall in chapter 9, verse number 4, Lord Krishna had said that exactly in Hindi कि जैसे बर्फ में पानी के अलावा और कुछ नहीं होता, उसी तरह से इस संसार में मेरे अलावा और कुछ नहीं है. Now, actually, that contains everything that the Almighty is all pervading. There is nothing but Him, nothing except Him. So, this is what he said, but obviously, this is not easy to understand. And therefore, Arjuna wanted to know his manifestations in the world because avyakt, that is non-manifest, is not easy to understand. And therefore he said, tell me the manifestations. And that is what Lord Krishna is now starts from verse number 19 onwards. श्री भगवान बोले, हे कुरुश्रेष्ठ, अब मैं जो मेरी दिव्य विभूतियां हैं उनको तेरे लिए प्रधानता से कहूंगा क्योंकि मेरे विस्तार का अंत नहीं है. नाउ विस्तार का अंत नहीं है. नेचुरली the universe is infinite and the power which gave birth to this universe, or the power where this universe has manifested, is also infinite, and therefore infinite cannot be described except in selected ways. And that is what Lord Krishna says, that I will tell you a few of my manifestations so that you can grasp them, so that you can understand the sequence of this manifest world. And he's saying that actually he has used that word later on also, that he will use one particular category. In that category, one particular manifest of the Almighty, I will try to tell you. That is what he's saying. So in that sense, he's moving forward. हे अर्जुन, मैं सब भूतों में हृदय में स्थित सबका आत्मा हूं, तथा संपूर्ण भूतों का आदि मध्य और अंत भी मैं ही हूं। सब भूतों में स्थित सबका आत्मा हूं। नाउ द वर्ड आत्मा is actually the center of our existence. Like we can see ourselves from the walls, we can see the body, which is you can only see the walls. If I see somebody else, I only see the outside part of it, the surface of the body. The core of the body is the Atma, from where the life force actually expresses itself. Now, this is very important to understand that without the soul, the body cannot be constructed in the form it is. The soul is the primary requirement for the fetus to grow and to become a full body. Without that, it is not possible because that soul gives a consciousness, the life force to it, with which it grows. Like we see outside human made things, we see a car, we add a door, we add another door, we prepare a boot, we add engine, we put, certain other parts of the body. So you have to add everything from outside. In case of living beings, not only humans, but all other beings, everything grows from inside because of that life force, that Atma, which enables us to grow into a human being. Nobody puts eyes on us or ears on us or hands on us. They automatically come out because of that force of the life. Similarly, in other species of life, exactly the same thing happens. So that soul which gives us an existence is he. That is what he's saying. It is not still easy for Arjun to understand, but he is explaining that that center around which the body is constructed, and because of that the body comes into being, that center is me, that is Atma is me. Now, सब भूतों का आदि मध्य और अंत. Now we have to understand one philosophical point here. In Indian philosophy, we always have believed that everything has a beginning, then it has its pinnacle, then it has its decline, then it is, you know, it dies, and then again rebirth takes place. So it's a cycle. It's a cycle in everything. Like the sun rises, slowly, slowly it reaches its peak, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it goes down in the evening, it sets, and then it disappears in the night, next day again comes back. So it's a cycle. Same is the cycle of the moon. Exactly same is the cycle of seasons, and the same is the cycle of the day and nights. So we have this cyclical functioning of the whole universe, and which has been explained in Hindu philosophy very, in a very, very, you say lucid words, and not only once, in variety of ways. It's called chakra. It everything behaves like a chakra. But on the other hand, in the Western philosophy, they believe in a linear progression, that you start from X point and then you keep adding X plus 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 like that, and it continues further up. Like the theory of Charles Darwin is exactly the same thing, that there was a one cell, life, and then two cell, and then multiple cells, and then organism, and then became complex. So it's a linear progression. That is what he said. Now, the theory of linear progression has completely failed. Now, the modern science, the latest scientific discoveries has again revealed that everything is cyclical. Even the matter, once it is destroyed completely, the what we call, subparticle physics tells you that it turns into waves, and then the waves again turn into matter, and there's a cycle which continues. So here Lord Krishna is saying कि भूतों का आदि मध्य और अंत. So the entire cycle of all the life's forces, when they are born, when they grow in their childhood, then they grow in their adulthood, then they become, what you call in mature life, in life after youth, and then they start growing old, and then finally the decay and the death. All that is me. All that is manifested because of me. So he is explaining that the center of birth, the center of growth from which a fetus grows, that is me. Then the soul itself keeps us alive throughout our lives, that is me. And then the beginning, the middle, and the end is me. So that is what he has explained in verse number 20. Now, verse number 21. मैं अदिति के 12 पुत्रों में विष्णु और ज्योतियों में किरणों वाला सूर्य हूं, तथा मैं 49 वायु देवताओं का तेज और नक्षत्रों का अधिपति चंद्रमा हूं. Now these are not only the manifestation, but these are also the description of the universe in certain ways. You see, अदिति के 12 पुत्रों में विष्णु. Now Vishnu is responsible for maintenance of this universe. Brahma gives birth, Vishnu maintains, and Shiv is responsible for destruction, and then naturally that prepares the ground for the rebirth. So he says that I am Vishnu, that I am the one who is maintaining this whole universe. Here there is also reference in Vishnu Puran that Aditi के 12 पितरों में जब the appearance of Vishnu came, he appeared as Vaman avatar. But that is also a truth that he could appear in a very different shape to tackle a particular problem arising that time. That was to handle certain evil forces. But in general, the Vishnu is responsible for overall maintenance of the whole universe. He keeps us, he feeds us, he makes sure that we get all the nutrition that is needed. And then the world continues, that we also have this calm Shakti, so that force gives birth to the progeny, and then the life force continues. So this is what he said here, that Aditi ke 12 putron mein Vishnu, that is responsible for the maintenance of the whole universe. Jyotiyon mein किरणों वाला सूर्य. Now you see, if you look at the solar, I would say the astronomical powers, the solar system is a family. Solar system actually constitutes a family in the sense that there is a sun. Then out of the sun, certain nakshatra or certain set these what we call other objects come into being. Like in our solar system, we have Navgraha, and some people call the modern science called moon as satellite, because the moon has a circumference around the earth. But it is not necessarily, it's only a semantic use of a particular word. But basically these Navgraha, the 9 planets, they arise from the sun itself. The modern theory also says that somehow with the division of certain forces or use of certain forces, the new forces are created, and those are basically the planets. Now, all those planets and the sun, they constitute a family. The sun is the force which keeps everything alive. Everything also has a periphery around the sun. Like our life, for example, we all the life in the solar system is dependent on the sun. If the sun dies tomorrow, the life will completely disappear tomorrow itself. How? First, if we look at the life, with the rise of the sun, the life begins. We were sleeping in the night. As the sun rises, we wake up. The world also wake up, because in the night you don't see the world. The world disappears. Today you can say, okay, there is electricity, but the electricity also is some form of sunlight. So if there is no light at all, no electricity, you don't see anything. The world disappears. And with the sunrise, the world appears again. And we get that capacity in our eyes to see the world because of the sun. The power to see anything in the world is directly linked to the sun. And the sun is the one which provides that power to our eyes. So that is the beginning. Then, of course, our day starts. Our entire energy cycle in the body is governed by the sun cycle. In the daytime, when the sun is around us, you feel hungry many times, 3 times, 4 times a day. But when the sun sets, after that, your hunger starts disappearing. And for 8 hours, you don't feel any hunger at all. And then you go to sleep, because sun, when it sets, it also puts you at rest. So the whole life cycle, whether it is the plant, whether it's animal, human being, any life in the solar system is entirely dependent on the sun. Also, not only that, the entire water cycle, because of the sun rays, the clouds are formed. Because of what you call, again, variation in temperature, that we call condensation process, that gives birth to rain and snowfall. So that whole cycle of water moves because of the sun. The wind cycle also moves because of the sun. If you study the movement of the winds, you will find that the areas which are heated up more, they become lighter and go up, and where the other wind, heavier wind, comes up into that place, and that's how the cycle of the wind starts. So even the water cycle, the wind cycle, the human life, everything is connected to the solar system. And that is what Lord Krishna is saying here, that I am the sun in the system. I am the one who is responsible for the regulating the entire system in a solar family. The solar family is, the millions of solar families in the universe. We are one of them, and each solar family has a sun, and the Lord Krishna, or the Almighty, represents that sun, which keeps a life alive, which sustains life, and which keeps the cycle of, birth and death going on. So this is what he said here. 49 वायु देवताओं का तेज. Now there are 49 variety of air. The modern science has discovered a few of them, but here he says 49 variety of air. Now we don't know all of them, but this reference has come elsewhere also. So you have to believe that there are 49 different varieties of air in the atmosphere. And all those air are getting their power and their movement from the force of the Almighty. Then nakshatron ka adhipati Chandrama. Now Chandrama has a very special significance. There are two things. Chandrama is the only planet in the solar system which actually reflects the solar, light in the night, and gives a what you call cool uh, atmosphere in the night. The same heat gets converted into cool. That's why it's called som. And that som, or that moonlight, is responsible for nurturing all the food elements on the earth. If the wheat gets its strength, or if the herbs get their strong strength, or the you know fruits get their strength, the all the usage, all the taste in the fruits and in all the eatables, that comes from moon. It's a it's what you call nurturing of entire food system is because of the moon. So that moon plays extremely important role. And he says that I am nakshatron ka adhipati moon hu, because that particular planet has a very different function apart from other planets which don't have that direct function with the living species. But moon has a very special function. And we also know that the mothers or women's the cycle, the 28 days cycle, is also rotates with moon. It's connected. And that is how we have the what we call pregnancy and the whole cycle, the birth and rebirth, not only of humans but all other species, is linked to the moon. We also know that the movement of uh, ocean water is also impacted by moon considerably. They have what you call jwar and bhata, that going up and going down. It all happens because of the particular position of the moon. So the moon plays a very crucial role in maintaining the life on the earth. So that is what he's saying, that I am that as well. देन ही सेज, मैं वेदों में साम वेद हूं, इंद्रों में देवों में इंद्र हूं, इंद्रियों में मन हूं, और भूत प्राणियों में चेतना अर्थात जीवन शक्ति हूं. नाउ इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड दीज थिंग्स. नाउ वेदों में साम वेद, नॉर्मली पीपल वुड हैव सेड वेदों में ऋग्वेद हूं, बिकॉज ऋग्वेद इज कंसिडर्ड mother of all Vedas, but he's saying Samved because of two reasons. Samved is a musical, construct. Samved provides a what you call a particular flow of expressing Vedas. It you can use musical expressions through using Samved construct. Now, Lord Krishna always has a music in his life. He's very closely linked. He's not a dry person like like many of us. He is absolutely musical. His life starts with Masuri, and he is all the time, uh, dealing with music. So, because of that, obviously, he has a preference for Samved, because Samved is the one which is possible to express the entire wisdom in a very synthetic manner, in a very soothing manner to the ears of the humanity. That is why he has said Samved. In Devo mein Indra hu, because Indra is more powerful than the other Devas. He is the king of the Devas. Indriyo mein man hu. Now, Indriyo mein man. You see, we have these five senses of perception, starting with sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of sight, sense of taste and smell. Now, these senses cannot work unless the mind is in unity with them. For example, now I am talking. People whose mind is not in unity with their ears will not be able to listen. They will be able to hear, but they will not be able to listen. Similarly, any activity of hearing or of touching or of taste, if you do, the mind has to be there if you want to perform that activity. So that is one reason. Second is, all the input from the sense organs go to the mind, and then the mind links it properly. For example, somebody is dancing and somebody is also singing. Now, you see from your eyes somebody dancing, you hear from your ears a sound of music or singing. Now, the mind will receive the two and connect. Whether the same person is singing or somebody else is singing, who is dancing, who is singing, all that unity and interpretation to us happens because of mind. So the mind is the one which actually uh, makes things understandable, which creates a unity, and then different inputs which come, they are analyzed and synthesized by the mind. And that is why he says, Indriyon mein main man hu, because man is basically a ruler of all the senses. Now भूत प्राणियों में चेतना. Now इसको समझना बहुत, it's very important and very fascinating thing. Chetana, what is chetana? When we read these things, we just gloss over these things, but chetana is extremely important to understand. With chetana, with our chaitanya, we are able to understand the outside world. For example, somebody is sitting next to me, my consciousness, my chaitanya will allow me to understand that there is a person sitting next to me. Who is he? I will recognize him or not recognize, depends on the previous, history of meeting. Now, that very fact that I understand somebody is coming, somebody is going, somebody is sitting, it requires chaitanya. Not only somebody, if you see a river, how do you understand it is river? You need chaitanya to understand that. You see a mountain, you see something, the chaitanya is the one which enables you to understand that this is mountain, this is a river, or this is the earth, or this is a plane, or this is a train, or this is a aircraft. That chaitanya is important. The chaitanya also understands you, your own body. For example, the chaitanya will tell you this is your hand, or this is your nose, or these are your eyes, this is your face. It will also tell you this is your body. So the chaitanya is beyond body. Anything which has been recognized, identified, that becomes an object. It goes away. That is separate. That is not chaitanya. So the body which your chaitanya is able to recognize is not chaitanya. Chaitanya is deeper than the body, because it is able, the chaitanya enables you to understand the body. Now, chaitanya also enables you to understand your mind. When you sit down quietly in meditation, you understand that this is my mind. You also understand the thoughts coming in and going out, how the thoughts are moving in my mind. You can observe all that. So chaitanya is not your mind also. It's not your intellect. It's not the thought, because it is able to observe all that. So these mind, intellect, thoughts, these are out. Chaitanya is even behind that. Now, Chaitanya is the one which cannot be understood, because in order to understand everything else, you need Chaitanya. But you cannot understand Chaitanya itself. That is the origin of all origins. And that is what Lord Krishna said in the beginning of this chapter, that my origin cannot be explained by Devtas and by Rishis, because I am the origin of all that. So the sense organs and the body and the mind, they cannot understand Chaitanya. Chaitanya is before that. In Kenopanishad, they say that, how do I see? You see because of the Chaitanya. So they say it is the eye of the eye. It is the ear of the ear. It is the taste of the taste, speech of the speech, mind of the mind. That is what is Chaitanya. So it can only be explained in certain, what we call language of contradictions. That Chaitanya itself cannot be understood. Everything else which is understood because of Chaitanya, but Chaitanya itself cannot be understood. And this understanding is extremely important because we will never understand Chaitanya. And that is why in Mandukya Upanishad, they say that this is beyond any description. It cannot be described. It cannot be, transacted. It cannot be, उसका मनन भी नहीं कर सकते माइंड से. It cannot be even a thought in the mind. It's not possible. So this is absolutely important to understand that Chetana is the first, the most, I would say, deepest or the first most important part from where everything else begins in the human body. Or not only human body, all species, all bodies that exist in the world. So, भूत प्राणियों में चेतना. भूत प्राणियों का मतलब not only the humans but all species of life. That Chaitanya is me. It is me who enables them to function, enables them to understand, enables them to understand this world. All that is possible because of me. That is what Lord Krishna is saying here. Then verse number 23. मैं एकादश रुद्रों में शंकर और यक्ष और राक्षसों में धन का स्वामी कुबेर हूं. Now, Shankar is, as we understand, is a force which is responsible for destruction of the world. But it is very interesting that this god of destruction is actually depicted as a phallic symbol, which is actually a sign of regeneration. You see, though he is the god of destruction, but he is represented in a phallic symbol because that is the sign of regeneration. So Shankar is, in certain ways, is involved in destruction, but in larger context, he is responsible for regeneration of the universe, for recreating the universe. Because that is the power which the power of destruction prepares a ground for regeneration or revitalization of the whole universe. So earlier he said he was Vishnu, now he has said Shankar. So he says, I am also the destructor. In Western philosophy, this looks very odd because the word God comes from word good. And good, they believe that basically the birth is good, but the death is destruction. Death is not good. So they say that it is the task of a Satan to do all the wrong things. But in Hindu philosophy, in our dharma, we always believe that this is the same force which creates and which destroys the what we call Udgam and Vilay, or Prabhav and Vilay. Prabhav and Vilay happens from the same source. Like if we look at the water cycle, the water goes into the ocean. All the rivers flow into the ocean. And from there it goes right up in the sky, forms cloud, and then again comes back into the cycle and comes to the same ocean. So it starts from ocean, Prabhav, and then it goes, disappears here and there in clouds and in rivers and in lakes and where else, and then again it comes back to the same ocean. So the Almighty is like that ocean from where everything arises. They go here and there, and then they move around, and finally they come back to the same ocean. So that is what he is saying here, कि एकादश रुद्रों में मैं शंकर हूं, यक्ष तथा राक्षसों में धन का स्वामी कुबेर हूं. Now this word looks little yaks and rakshas. Now rakshas has been very unpleasant word for us. Rakshas we always affiliate with some sort of mischief, some sort of wrongdoing. But basically rakshas is denoting or indicating that the person has not acquired enlightenment. He is not fully aware of what he is doing. It is a dark side of his personality which shows that he is Rakshas Pravarti, that his intellect and his mind is not fully developed to understand the correct nature of a situation. So all that is linked to money. How? Kuber is the, you know, what you call Dhanka Devta. He is Akshay Vandar. He has infinite amount of wealth. Now, both Yaksha and Rakshas, how they are linked with Kuber? Because it is the money which also makes you unwise, which also gives you the darkness. The ego of money actually sometimes lead you to darkness. And that is why he says that if you are able to understand properly the wealth and its utility, then you will be able to overcome that pravarti also. So that part is implied here. It is not directly linked, but it is implied that once you acquire wealth, it can lead you to do wrong things. A lot of wealthy people do that, we see even today. But it can also enlighten you and push you towards right activities. And that is the people do, they spend their wealth for the welfare of the people. जो दान करते हैं, you know, institutions, they donate to great institutions. So this is how he is referring here. देन 8 वसुओं में अग्नि और शिखर वाले पर्वतों में सुमेरु पर्वत हूँ. Now this is basically an explanation that Agni is again a very important feature, a very important symbol in this universe. Why? The Agni is the only one which rises upwards. If you put water, it goes downwards. If you throw earth, it will go downwards. If you even throw wind, it will not go upwards, it will just float in the air. But fire, as soon as you light a fire, it goes up. This is the only object among the 5, Panchabhut in the world where it goes upwards. Urdhgami. That is one. Secondly, as soon as you light Agni, it gives you light. You can see the things around. The darkness disappears. So that is another thing. It is a sign of enlightenment. It is also the sign of lowering your darkness. Then thirdly, Agni is also the source of heat. Like we maintain a body temperature, earth maintains a body temperature. Everything, even within the body, the various parts maintain, particular temperature. So the heat is extremely important for survival of life in the universe. And that heat comes from Agni. Like, when there are places which are completely snowbound, where there's no heat, life is not possible. There cannot be any vegetation there. Even animal life is very, very rare. Very few animals can survive in those frozen areas. In some areas, no animal can survive at all. So that is another reason why Agni is important. That is, provides the heat which is important for energy and survival of various species of life. Then Agni is also important for another reason. It purifies everything else. For example, you collect all the waste and you put it to the fire. The waste is purified. It gets converted into air. That air is purified in the space by the nature. So even a whole city can be put on fire, it will disappear and it will be purified, in the sense that you have ground to prepare a new one. So this is the element which enables us to purify in the final, you know, way. Like we wash our clothes, that water also helps us in purify. We put in the air to dry the clothes, that also helps us in purifying. But fire is the one which is the ultimate cleaner. Anything which is not, you cannot clean by this, you go to the fire. The fire cleans even the gold. We have gold bhasma. You have impurities of gold and all other metals, are purified in the fire. So fire has these elements, and that is why it's extremely important for the existence of life in the world. So it is urdhgami. It gives you light, removes the darkness. It gives you heat, and it purifies everything else. So that is why he says, I am Agni. And then Sikhar wale parvaton mein Sumeru Parvat. Now you see the geography has changed, the names have changed a little bit, but basic reference is that Sumeru Parvat at some stage was considered the birthplace of the life. And this is what the reference is. Now this was spoken more than 5,000 years back in time. Things have changed, names have changed, but basically what he says here is that the most magnificent mountain, I am representing that. So this is how he is explaining in verse number 23. We'll take one more verse number 24. पुरोहितों में मुखिया बृहस्पति मुझको जान, हे पार्थ मैं सेनापतियों में स्कंद और जलाशयों में समुद्र हूं. Now we all know that the Purohit of all the Devtas is Brihaspati. Brihaspati is considered to be very learned, wise person who is, able to guide even the Devtas. So this is what he's saying here. Now Brihaspati is not only a planet, but the origin of the planet is because of certain regions, and those regions are, have been expressed in terms of Brihaspati, the individual. Like we also have a sun who is responsible for sun. The sun god is also there in some form. Similarly, Brihaspati god is also there in a form, and that form is he is referring to that particular form. So it's not only the planet or the sun which we see in the solar system, but the form which is responsible for bringing that sun or the planet into being. सेनापतियों में Kartik. Now, सेनापतियों में obviously he is one of the great, what you call organizers of armies. And जलाशयों में समुद्र. Now, samudra, there is nothing bigger than any, water body than the ocean. Ocean is the biggest body of the water, and where everything originates and comes back and keeps revolving. So he is giving a reference that this is what I, manifest in different forms. So these are some of the manifestations he has given. There will be some more which will come. We will look at them next time. But all these manifestations, they are not only symbolic, but they have a deeper meaning behind that. Now, some of the meaning we are able to understand today, even some of the meaning we cannot understand properly in today's context, because the context has changed, the time has elapsed since this Bhagavad Gita was recited to Arjuna in way back more than 5,000 years ago. So that context has changed, but not the reality. Names have changed, but not the reality. So all those things exist, but all these Lord Krishna is just telling him, because he could not understand the known manifest form of the Almighty. When he says that I am prevalent like water is prevalent in the ice, I am prevalent in this whole world. But Arjuna could not understand that. That non manifest form he is referring to was not comprehensible for Arjuna, and therefore he wanted to know the manifest forms. So he gave this some of these examples of the manifest form just to explain to him how he has, you know, given birth to this manifest world in so many varieties. Now, one more thing here I would like to mention before we close for today. This is the word called Aishwarya and Ishwar. The word Ishwar actually comes from Aishwarya. And Aishwarya is the one which is the glorious reflection of any entity. Anything which exists in its most glorious form, it's called Aishwarya. Like a flower which is fully, blossoming fully with all its fragrance, all its colors, then it is showing its Aishwarya. It's showing the pinnacle. Eh, You make a beautiful, art piece, and you say this is the pinnacle of all the arts. Now that is called Aishwarya. So the word Ishwar, that is indicating the height, the pinnacle of glory, the pinnacle of expression, the pinnacle of manifestation. That is what Ishwar is. And this is linked here because the manifestations which is, narrating in this Vibhuti Yoga chapter, he is narrating those manifestations which are glorious in their own way, which have their own glory and which are, performing a variety of functions in this universe. So this is, I thought I will mention. And these all these forms are expression of Aishwarya of the Almighty. And this is how he has, given chosen certain important manifestations and explained those to Arjuna. So thank you very much for coming despite all the inconvenience today. I am grateful to all of you. If you have any question, I'll be very happy to answer.